I was speaking about what Indire is. Indire is a national research institute that has a long tradition for our country. It was founded in 1925 as pedagogic library, and it always in the last years collected good practices from schools. In 2012, become what it is now. That is a proper research institute, and it includes some other agencies working in European context. So it includes Erasmus Agency. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's an agency who is that is working for international European exchange between students from country to country and the teachers. The twinning agency that is managing international collaboration between teachers. And we manage European funds for Italy's school system. And then we are a proper research institute. I mean that we are leading research on different topics. We were funded in 2012 with the main purpose is to lead innovation into schools. And to participate to evaluations of schools that are, for us, two sides of the same medal, let me say. Let me give you some context of the Italian system. Just a few words, just to let you know how it works. The system for which we are working for. We are into a national public system where public schools are a very minority, and they are mainly in the preschool, or they are a sort of recovery school for in the secondary school. We have a national indication for curriculums. That it means that we have not a national curriculum, but we have a national indication that schools can use to produce their own curriculum. Because in our context, schools has the autonomy to personalize curriculums. The way in which they do so can be very different from school to schools. The idea of this, let me say, autonomy is that each school should be a sort of group of teachers that produce their own ideas together. Not always it works like this, but it should be. Talking about spaces and school buildings, the situation is that the schools buildings are public, but they belong to different institutions and schools. So the buildings are or belong to local council or to regions administration. And this situation creates difficulties for bureaucracies because schools has their own organization and bureaucracy, and local countries and regions they have own. So to renew schools or to build new schools can be a long process, even when funds are allocated. Then there are specific laws from the central administration that indicates how the schools should be built. But this indication, this law, talk just about the minimum space each school should have the minimum space students need to have when they are sit. Nothing more is provided. Just of course technical needed about how corridors should be large and so on, but nothing really pedagogical is suggested or from these laws. But in these last years, in this graph you can see the age of the school buildings. School buildings. As you can see, they are pretty old. As you know, Italy a little bit, you know that we have a lot of ancient and old buildings, and the Italian state use a lot of old buildings to host schools. As you see, these buildings sometimes were built to be schools, but sometimes not. So there are different kind of situation for that. But the most of the buildings are older than 30 years. For that reason, recently, the administration allocated a lot of money to renew the schools. So for this reason and for other that we will see things, how to build schools became an hot topic, both for administration and for teachers. From our point of view, the important question is to ask is the schools that we have now has a pedagogic vision, and which is the pedagogic vision of the traditional schools. In the discussion of the last years, even the national indication talk about the importance of learning environment, but how this learning environment should be built, should be designed to be useful, to have a better experience for students, and to have a more effective results for the students. The traditional approach to school design that we define self and wealth, as I told just some minutes before, just talk about a minimum number of square meters, and then all that a school should have, they are classrooms and corridors. Yeah, of course, we can talk about labs, we can talk about gyms, but mainly there is no specialization. There is any specialization of this space. They are not talking about, let me say, pedagogy in any sense. The only thing that we can see for this little sketch here is that how many students they can host. this is these spaces are functional to what we say, what is called lecture-based learning model, where there is someone who speaks and student has to listen or to read. Then they are just to recall and be tested. This model can be useful to understand which kind of pedagogic model is under the situation, the traditional situation. This is a traditional space lecturing classroom. I think once I've read a book of Seymour Papert, and he said in 1990 about, it is 30 years ago, that if space travel came from the early, the end of 19th century to the present time, he doesn't would not recognize anything but the schools, because nothing is changed, or very few is changed from the end of the 18th century, from 18th century till the 19th century. But this is, as I told you, the traditional school design for lecturing model, and why we actually feel the why we actually want to go for a new model of faith. Now I'm starting to talk about a little more of pedagogy. We can say that space is important when pedagogy under the teacher's way of teaching change. Actually, actually, we can say that science, technology-driven processes, as well as economy, need different professional thinkers. They need of problem solvers. That means that knowledge, as considered as something that you have to remember, can be less important than the ability to solve problem using that kind of knowledge, but using it in a often in a, let me say, innovative way. So society is different from the one that produced the previous model of schools. On the other hand, so our society asks for more inclusive. On the other hand, society is more inclusive. So a model that provides the same instruction for different students, different, let me say, socioeconomical, cultural, and so on, is not inclusive as the society wants or presents to be. So to the teacher is a request to provide, to personalize the way they teach. It means that all I said. It means that a different pedagogy model should be adopted. This pedagogy is, of course, different, but it's not so new. I mean, new pedagogies, of course, are new, but they have roots into the history of pedagogy. I would like to underline this because, especially in these last days, in the last years, at least in Italy, we talk about very much of innovation. But what innovation is in pedagogy is not so clear. Even because, as what I'm saying, that a lot of approaches that put in the center the different ways in which student can develop their own method to study. It's not so new, let me say. One that you can know, but because it's internationally well known, is Reggio Children approach. But Reggio Children approach was created by Malaguzzi. Malaguzzi was a teacher, primary school teacher, and he started to teach after the Second World War, when the Second World War ended and Italy was wasted. So the first problem that he has, and it's not very interesting because it starts from there. The problem that he has is to build a school, because in the village where he works, there is nothing there is nothing than poor house from the villagers, and they have very few. But they had, I don't remember, but he quotes that they had a tank and some cows and very few others. They sold that and created the first schools, these first schools. Then he created, time by time, a group of teachers, a primary school teacher mainly, teaching each other and teaching with the community that hosted them how to improve and how to introduce pedagogy that was seen as something that is, let me say, too theoretical, into their lessons. This way to develop teaching brought to what is Reggio Children is now. But even when Malaguzzi was still alive, they formalized their own schools, and they talk about atelier, that is a space that need to be designed to face off different topics and different way to let the students to explore the space that was designed by the teachers and by another one collaborating with the teachers that was called atelierists. The competence of the atelierists, Malaguzzi talk about that should be involved person coming from art schools. In this way, the collaboration between the teacher and these art school experts should create a space where students can explore and learn by themselves, of course, using a teacher as a tutor. This way of teaching it is internationally recognized. So I'd like to, I put one of the, I think, most famous researcher who said that it was inspired by the Reggio approach, that is Michael Resnick, that creates into the Massachusetts Institute of Technology the Long Life Kindergarten Group. But I'm not going to speak about it now because it's a little bit outside of our topics today. Another one that is, this is sorry, also India. This is the slides from Malaguzzi. I put it a picture from the book that is the 100 languages of children. The story I told you was in that book. I would like to say that Malaguzzi, as other important primary school teachers, Italian primary school teacher, important for our history of schools, didn't write itself its book because he said, I am a teacher, I am primary teacher, and my most important work is practical one. So a researcher from, I don't remember which university, interviewed him, and from this interview was written this book. So this book is not from Malaguzzi itself, but was on the interviews that this group leads to Malaguzzi. I was saying another important Italian, I talk about Italian one, but I don't want to have now a history of pedagogy lesson, because it's, yes, it's useful, but it's not the space to do that now. Another important pedagogist and famous pedagogist is Montessori, Maria Montessori. She talked about the importance of freedom, and the first aspect of freedom is the freedom to move. So what he started to teach to the small children is that they can move during schools, but they have to respect some rules. Then she developed a method where students moving into the rooms can choose their own tool. The tools of Montessori is quite famous, and students decide what they have to do day by day. Of course, this is something that should be built. Children should be educated to do that. But both in Malaguzzi and in Montessori, the space is important. And the space is, we can say that space is important when you adopt an active pedagogy framework. That it means that you think that students has to learn and develop their own method to learn and say. So actually, to force a little bit the two different points of view, we could say that the old traditional way is a delivery-driven model. That it means that it's on the knowledge that has to be delivered. The second picture is on. It's about the students, the learners, that has to learn something. Of course, this the changing from the one to the other is not so easy because, as I tried to say before, acting on space, acting on buildings, it's let me say, it means it's costly, of course, but it means that you have to spend a lot of time, you have to involve different people and so on. But where to start? For us to let this process lead by the pedagogic side of it means that it is necessary to involve teachers. And it is necessary to let all the designers, all the stakeholders working on that building, that buildings need to be designed for pedagogic needs. For that reason, we create a framework we call manifesto, that in our intention should be a way to let the teachers understand how to express themselves, how to collaborate themselves, to think to design space, but at the same time can be used can be used by architects to understand what pedagogy needed space are, and to let teachers and architects to sit on the same table, working and talking on something that can let themselves understood. I mean, to let the one to understand the needs of the others.
Sir, it looks like your slides are not changing. You're still in the slide
called
delivery-driven learning led.
Allora, I'm very sorry. I'm sometimes allora, I'm concentrating on the words. When I was saying what delivery-driven is and what learning model is, I was thinking on this picture. On the left side, a delivery-driven, where knowledge has to be driven to someone that is waiting for. On the right side, the space where the learners are building their own models, and for some other aspects, a learner can search for his own knowledge. So when I was saying how to get from the left to the right picture, I was that pictures in mind, and when I was saying this is a few lines, I would say that we create, as I told you before, a manifesto to let all the stakeholders working on school design, well, all the stakeholders working on school design can use it to let themselves understood. So the model can be useful for teacher, to have teacher training about how the space can be used for pedagogical purposes, but at the same time can be used for the architects to understand which is a pedagogic needs and how to design for that pedagogic needs. So the model want to create a sort of table where different stakeholders can discuss and let themselves understood each other. Where this manifesto came from? We did, as a research institute, our first approach is to do a literature review, but we go and observe a lot of innovative school in Europe. We started, if I correctly remember, in 2010. And of course, we started where the most innovative school buildings are in the northern, in Europe, I mean, in the northern part of Europe. So we have a lot of different case studies of these different schools that we knew because they were famous. They have, we interview national stakeholders, and we knew some school leaders that are innovative about that. So we search in our own, let me say, and we of course interviewed teachers that we knew as innovative teachers. Then, of course, we follow the indication of international stakeholders who talk about this topic. The result was this one. This is picture. It's in English, but I'm going to explain this different part in the next slide. This publication, this what we call manifesto, was presented in. It seems, I don't remember it. I didn't write it, but it seems in 2014 or 15 in an international conference in Berlin, it seems, but this is not important. Probably the main reason why I didn't write it here. We call it 1+4 learning space manifesto. As you can see, there are 5 pages, but what I'm saying here is why 1+4. The one.
This will.
Yes,
please continue. Please continue. Yes.
Oh, sorry. The one is what we are what you are seeing in the upper part of the picture is the individual area. Let me go to the next one, but because maybe it's but because it is in your language. But what is here in red is the group learning space. Why is I'm saying why is the 1+4? Because we talk about this space can be considered a sort of evolution of the classroom. So, sorry, I want to about this before to go further. Group learning space, as you can see, there's a lot of different functions he absolves and a lot of different activities it can be delivered on. Can be considered a sort of evolution of the classroom because we start from spaces that are full of classes. So it is important to mark a sort of continuity between what it is and what we want to reach and what it is now. This place is where, as you can read, students can build their own identity. That it means that where the students feel part of a smaller group than it was in the schools. For this reason, it is like an actual school class, but it has different functions, and this function is strictly linked to the other ones. less used in at least in our schools is the informal area. If we consider that students can freely move, or at least that they can move for a specific task a teacher asks them, we should consider that they can decide to have a rest or to have an informal discussion, or that a teacher can ask to the students to have a pre-meeting for if you consider a group activity, if you consider that teacher provide a prompt to create something or to study something, maybe a teacher can suppose that students need a place where they can discuss freely, so they can go, for example, there where they can find soft seats or other comfort spaces, even, I don't know, a small bar, or maybe the machine is providing food or something to drink. The student can get dispersed? No, because in a prompt you can say that the student, for example, that the students has to have their small group meetings for example 15 minutes. Then they can go to informal area for 15 minutes, each one in each group, in its group, and have this first part of this activity. The Agora, the one on the right, the word is, of course, inspired from the Greek space. It's a place for the whole. It's written that it's for the whole school community, but it can be used, for example, for other different activities. A teacher can design, for example, for debate activities where two or more groups discuss each other about a topic that the teacher assign them. Agora, it's a place of a group group discussion, or where, for example, a single group can present to the others something that they created. So it's a place for presentation, to present to larger space. As we say, as you can say, this space can be a big group. It can be for big groups and for the whole school community, but can be used even for work groups. Individual area. In this model, there is a place for communities and place to study by themselves. For example, using the first example I told you of, a group activity, after they start to discuss how to work as a group, the group decided what to do, but then maybe an internet research should be lead, or a book research should be lead, and it should be done by each student of the group. So these students can go to the individual area where they can concentrate themselves to have the research and to maybe take pictures or from the internet, or study something. The students can use these pages that could be made with single small tables, and they can bring their own computer if they have, or these places could be prepared with the computer itself. And then exploration lab. The exploration lab could be several stuff. Could be several different things, because they can are very similar very similar to what labs has now, but they can be even different kind of labs. For example, you can have a chemistry lab, for example, or you can have, as I told you before, I work with makerspace. There could be a makerspace. A makerspace can be considered a sort of a multidisciplinary lab. So it is quite different from what is a lab now. A lab, it's a disciplinary space where you can lead a research, exploration, and so on. But so the space can contain more than one topic. For example, it could be a place where plants are, or where hydroponic stuff are, and you can lead different activities on this. You can have robotics and so on. If you think an activity on your topic or with your children, think what you can do living in a hypothetical school, what you could do if you can design a lesson having these different spaces where students can do different activities. What I would say to underline now, and I have to, but we have almost finished. I would like to just to let you give some picture of the different phases. What is important to understand, in my opinion, about this model is that they talk about the pedagogic use of space. I can provide some example. I can show you some picture of these different spaces, but you can design the space in the way that you prefer, that it means in the way that you can do, because if you have a lot of funds to spend, you can, of course, can do a fantastic building. But if you have not, you can even recolocate it and redesign the space you are answering to this different function. In the video that I would like to show you later, you can see schools that redesign the space, but using a space that already has. So the importance, what I would like to underline, the importance of this model is that he suggests and talk about function of space. He is not talking about how the space has to be designed. This is because we invite teachers to the pedagogic size of the school to discuss in which way they could develop their own school using this as a sort of map. But at the same time, we can talk of this space to the architect, talking with them and explaining them this function to let them design new schools and new space. What is important to understand, and for this I insist on it, is that this model is something that everyone can see in its own situation and adapt. What we've seen in the first experience we have with this model in the school is that the teachers that wanted to start to think about new spaces divide the class into at least one or two these different spaces to let the students aware of the differences, and to design new lessons that let the students move from a space to another. So we are going to see some pictures of this example. The first two are correct from Italian backgrounds, from our examples. The other, I think, it's international. These are how the group learning space can be realized. As you see, there are tables, but there are different tables between the others. Sorry, they are different from the table they are actually in the classroom. For example, the chair you see in the first pictures there's wheels. In this way, groups can be designed and redesigned very, very fast. These are 4 examples of individual areas. These are all these spaces are from northern European northern countries. For example, I want to underline the first pictures is the function of this area could be mixed if you think it's useful. So we can say a sofa that is more from the relaxing area, and the tables where students are studying by themselves. Exploration area, as you can see, there's a lot of different way to create these spaces. And what is important that the exploration area could be even outside. Let me say, I didn't speak about outside pedagogy because I'm not so into that, but this is another important stuff that, for example, important space that, for example, Maria Montessori talk about it, and where in the COVID during pandemic period we have a lot of requests for study off, because a lot of requests to study on it, because it was useful to let the students stay outside safety because of the pandemic, but at the same time in a way that was more useful to their learning path. This is the informal area. And another important thing that we can see, for example, in the first picture, when we think to these areas, we think about, we always have in mind, that's the first impression, rooms, but informal areas can be even built in the corridors, as we can see in the first, just with some sofas where the students can lie on if they need. And finally, the agora, that it's meant as a place where different groups, as I told, different students, many students can listen to one. These are ways in which we could design these spaces, but what is important to say is that we would like that each teacher, but better, each school can use this model to think in which way can develop the space each school has in a different way. Okay, and application, I'm going a little bit fast because it's late. this model can be used to design flexible environment, of course, to refurbish schools, but even area of schools, single area of schools, as well as design new schools. I already told this. Our role in all this is to, in our country, for example, is to train teachers to our models, to let them understand and to let them think about how to redesign their own schools with the space they already has. And we are, our group is quite big. We are 10 people. So other of us are involved with architects or with regional managers that can provide funds to do effective to really build new schools. Maybe a few times for that. This is the model of the old way to design schools, at least in Italy. There's a client that usually is the local council that go to a designer that through a design process provide a new building, and then teachers go and use it. This is the model that we go for. There is on the right side of always a design, a building, and a delivery to the students. But meanwhile, the teachers should experiment, consolidate, and resonate on how the space should be used to provide information for a new design project. What is the things behind this model is that a school is not built once forever. The schools are expression of the teacher who are living in there. So each group of schools that year by year go into a schools can impact on the way that school is designed. Of course, not on the walls, but on the way the existing spaces are used. And this model suggests that time by time schools evolves, and sometimes this evolution can be fixed into a new building, but starting from the pedagogy part. I would like now to show you a video from an Italian schools that changed their school without changing too much into the walls and so on.